G'day, Hugh here from videsign.com.au, a design company based on the Gold Coast in Australia, and thank you for joining me. Now, Photoshop has 5 healing tools that you can use to heal different parts of your photos depending on what you need doing. Now, some of these tools work really well, others not so well, but with a little bit of tweaking you can use them in combination with other tools to get the desired results. So let's get into Photoshop and have a look at these tools and just see how you can heal your photos using Photoshop. Okay, so welcome. This is a tutorial on the healing tools in Photoshop. And if you have a look at our tools that we have available to us, the healing tools are in this section here. So we've got Spot Healing Brush Tool, the Patch Tool, Content Aware Move Tool, and the Red Eye Tool. I thought we'd start with the Red Eye Tool because it's probably the simplest and the easiest of the lot. And if you've taken a photograph and you have ended up with red eye, you can just click on the Red Eye tool and have that selected, and basically click in the area that is red, the red pupil, and click in a fairly red part of that red. You can see it's darker here and lighter here, so choose the lighter area and just left click, normal click on the pupil. Photoshop will read it and then it will get rid of the red eye. Gone. So let's have a look at that again just to see before and after. We've got the red pupil, select the Red Eye tool, click on the red part of the pupil, Photoshop analyzes and removes the red eye. Before and after, very easy to do. So that's the Red Eye tool in Photoshop. What we'll have a look at now is the more basic Healing Brush tool. Which is this one here, the second one down, Healing Brush Tool. Now what this tool does acts very similar to the cloning stamp tool. So basically you can sample a piece of your photograph and place it over the piece of the photograph you want to remove. Now my brush size could be a little bit bigger just to make sure the entire bird is covered. So we want it to be sampled, and the brush size that will take into account what we're working on. So you hold down the Alt key and choose a part of the picture you would like to sample over the piece you want to remove, and then you left click on that spot. So hold Alt down, left click, and then you can just move that over the top. Now that looks pretty good. To the naked eye you could not tell, but I'll just show you some times where it can get you in a bit of trouble. So if I'd chosen this bit here and tried to put that over, now it doesn't look too bad but not amazing either. If we'd chosen somewhere around this spot up here and put that down over the bird, it looked terrible. So we really want to look at choosing a similar area of your photo to the place to the surrounds of what you're actually removing. So we'll come back up here and you know, we could choose somewhere like this even to put over the top, and it doesn't look too fake. I mean, you know, we know it's there, but to the naked eye, to someone just walking straight into your room and looking at that, they'd have no idea. So that's our Healing Brush tool. That's not too bad. It could be better, but not too bad. So Healing Brush tool. Now I want to show you the Content Aware Move tool. Now this is a tough one to do in some circumstances. Now we've got a nice photo of a dog here, but say for instance we wanted that dog to be over here. Now the problem we have here is the shadow, but we can select the tool. So it is Content Aware Move tool, and draw around what we're wanting to move. Now in this case we also want to move the shadow, because the shadow is a pretty important part of this photo. So we draw all the way around it. Now Photoshop has selected the area that we've drawn. Now if we click inside our selection and move it, we could move the dog to somewhere like, say like that. Maybe there. Photoshop will do the rest. So you let go of where you've moved it and just hit enter, and Photoshop will look into it, analyze it, remove, replace, then Control D to deselect. Now that has done a pretty good job, but you can see it's not necessarily perfect. But what I'll do is I'll duplicate the layer so that we can compare how it looks. So we'll put the dog around there, somewhere around there. Hit enter. Let Photoshop do its magic. And what it does with content aware, it fills in some of the background. So Control D to deselect. You can see the dog has moved, the shadow, we've selected the shadow has moved, but we have a little bit of blurriness in there. Now we could use the clone stamp tool to hold Alt down and repair some of this. Yes, we don't want to go with stuff that's easily recognizable. Maybe move in a bit there like that. Or we could use one of the other tools. Now a very powerful tool is the Spot Healing Brush tool. Now if we make the brush size a decent size for our photo, and if we just click on areas of the photo that we want to heal, just as a spot, it does a very good job of healing. Now that's probably, the brush is too big for our purposes here, so what we want to do is remove some of that and make our brush a lot smaller, so that it's really only healing spots rather than big chunks. But it's not really as good as we would like. I mean, it's done a pretty good job really when you look at it. If you zoom right in, it might be starting to be a bit obvious, but yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, you can even do a resize. So if we just drop this layer out and duplicate it back, we could, by choosing our content aware move tool and selecting the same area again, just around the dog, all the way around, so when it joins up, there's a selection. Now if we go and move the dog, we also have the option of resizing the dog. So if we put the dog about, maybe about there, and hit enter, and there you see where it doesn't work so well. So it really hasn't had that desired effect. So it's a cool tool, but it doesn't always work in your favor, and sometimes it leaves things behind. As you can see, there's a part of the ear in the picture still. So yeah, it's one to play around with, but depending on what you need to do with your photo. Now it does work pretty well in other situations though. So say we wanted to move this tennis ball across to here. We could just easily select around the tennis ball, move it over and drop it into the grass there. Not too bad, not too bad. What I'd like to do with it is deselect it and zoom in, grab the tool and get very close to it, so where you're not leaving as much to chance. You want that grass in there, you want to move that with the ball. Now what we do is we zoom back out, come back to our tool and move the ball into the grass there, and that's done a pretty good job moving the tennis ball pretty much to where we want it. Now, if we come back to the spot healing brush tool, we could then remove this stick just by spot healing it out of the picture, like so. So that's not too bad, is it? There's a little lack of focus in the foreground, at the very foreground, so it's sort of coming up into that area there, but it's not really too much to worry about. So there is the application of both the spot healing tool and the content aware move tool to change your photo around to a degree. So another tool we have is called the patch tool, and that's in here, just patch tool. And that allows you to draw again around what you want to heal, and allows you to then choose another part of the picture to patch over it. So when you've got these wavy lines here, you want to choose a similar looking area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate and move it again so it's into a similar area, similar textured area. Control D to deselect. So you can see now it's not too bad, not perfect though, is it? It's then you'd have to sort of line it up. So you can zoom in and work on the, you could get the stamp tool and just stamp in the texture to make it look a bit more realistic and not so cloned out. Yeah, it's not too stressful, is it? And then you can add a little bit there into the picture that way, and make it difficult for the naked eye to know that what has been cloned out. Of course, it's all matter of working on it. That didn't work very well, so it's a bit of trial and error, and paying attention to detail. But that's the patch tool. It's probably superseded by some of the other tools, I'd say. It's not really the most practical, but it did the job there, along with the healing tool, or the stamp, or the healing tool, or the clone stamp, which does tend to solve a lot of issues in these sort of things. So again, we could just refer back to the spot healing tool, which is the top one, which is probably the most powerful of the tools available. You can really just do it like that with individual clicks. So that was it wasn't too difficult, but you can see how there's blurriness left behind. Let me bring that picture back, and I'll drop the layer down here so we can work on it that way, and make the tool just that bit smaller. So you can do these individual clicks to heal, but you can also do a single line, as like so, as in big bulk amounts. But it hasn't quite done it perfectly, has it? So you could come back to, again, doing your cloning, use the clone stamp, not too big a brush, around that sort of size, and just bring the water back in where it's a bit blurry. So you use the healing brush to remove your object, and then the stamp tool to just improve it a bit. So we can have a look back at that and see where we're at. Seen worse. Could definitely have a bit more work done on it, but it's definitely removed the boat if you just want to have a complete open water scene. So they're the healing tools in Photoshop. Each one has its pros and cons. Play around with them a little bit, see how you can change your photos with them. You can do some really cool stuff. Obviously, you can remove those crumbs. Here we can change the scene with the dog by moving the ball and removing the stick. In here we actually did move the dog in a much better way using the content aware move tool. That one with the resize didn't work. If we go back and just to finish it off so it doesn't look as weird, we can move our dog a little bit like we did before. Hit enter to say yes please Photoshop, that's where we'd like the dog to be moved to. Control D to deselect, and we have a better composition there. And then we've got we removed the bird, flying bird, by using a few of the other tools, and obviously the very simple red eye tool allowing us to fix up red eye. So all our tools for healing in Photoshop each do specific roles, and some better than others, but they definitely do a good job when you spend a bit of time and focus on healing your photos. Well, that's all for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it and learned a little bit about the healing tools, and until next time, I'll see you later.